Hello, my name is Jitters, and welcome back to another episode of Why Everybody Plays, a series of mine where I talk about the most played agents in Valorant. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about Raze. Raze is the third most picked duelist in the game when it comes to solo queue, but honestly, even with as much love as she gets, I don't think it's undeserved. In my opinion, I think she's probably the second best duelist in the game, and the only reason that Reyna has a higher pick rate than her is because she's easy to use and very selfish, which draws more people in to play her, especially in solo queue. But enough about Reyna, we're not here to talk about her. We're here to explore why Raze has such a high pick rate. But before we start, just like always, I'm going to start by talking about all the cons to picking an agent like Raze. Or I guess the con? The thing with Raze is that honestly, I found it kind of hard to come up with the reasons why you shouldn't pick her. I thought about how she doesn't have a flash, but honestly her nade is so strong it's hard to use that as an argument. I would say she's reliant on her teammates for things like smokes, but as a duelist, that's not your job. I was also going to talk about how she's not strong on Breeze, but when you're playable on literally every single other map, it's not really much of a weakness. So the only thing I could come up with as a con for playing Raze is that you can't really just hop into a game and pick her. I didn't really know how else to word this. At first I was going to say that she had a high skill floor, but that's not exactly true. The reason I say you can't just pick her right away is that honestly she's probably the only agent in the game where in order to fulfill her role on a team you need to hop into a custom game first. This is because of one mechanic, satchel jumps. You can't really play a game as Raze without first learning how to double satchel. It's kind of a requirement to be able to play her like a duelist. Without knowing how to double satchel, you can't really make space nearly as effectively. And you also can't really use her ultimate to open up a site. I've never really taken the time to learn how to satchel jump, and I feel like whenever I try to pick her, I'm at such a huge disadvantage because it feels like I'm playing with one less ability. I can't really push onto a site or make space very well, and my ultimate is just so much weaker if you can't shoot it from the air to get the splash damage from it. In pretty much all situations, I feel like I'm better off just picking any other duelist. I don't know if this is just me or if other people feel the same way about picking her. Please let me know in the comments whether you agree with me or not. But anyways, that's really all I had to say when it comes to the negatives of playing Raze. Again, there isn't really much here. I feel like Raze is a very strong agent, and once you get past that barrier to entry of learning how to double satchel properly, you can start to unlock her true potential. But rather than just ramble on, I'm gonna just get into her strengths. For starters, Raze has insane mobility. She's literally the most mobile agent in the game, even more than Jett. With both of her satchels, she can cover a larger distance than any other agent. This makes it easy for her to open up sites, catch enemies off guard with a quick flank, and with how fast she moves, it's just really hard to hit her while she's in the air. On top of the distance she can cover, her mobility also lets her play in aggressive off angles. If you've watched my other Why Everybody Plays videos, I did say that this point was going to stick around. This is such a strong tool to have in her kit. By being able to play on high ground, you effectively make it way harder for enemies to be able to clear you. If an enemy isn't expecting you to be playing on top of a box somewhere, their crosshair is probably at head level. So if they peek an angle and you're on a box above them, they now have to flick upwards to try and hit you. Where at the same time, your crosshair will probably be near their head, making your shot way easier to hit than theirs. I don't think players should underestimate how strong this can be, and if you ever decide to play Raze, I highly recommend trying this out. The second strength I wanted to talk about is that she's strong on pretty much every map. If not, she's at least playable. Besides maybe Breeze. With maps she's really strong on like Split and especially Bind, which is definitely her strongest map. Her boombot is so strong at clearing hookah, U-Haul, and showers. Her nade makes it impossible for enemies to play backside on B. And in general, the choke points around the map just make it so easy for her to get great value out of her nade. But besides Bind, being at least playable on almost every map is really good for an agent because you're able to pick them more often. And I think that's very important when picking a main because if you pick a main that's only playable on one or two maps, you put yourself at risk of having trouble on all the other maps where your main isn't playable. The next point I wanted to talk about is that Raze has a lot of free value in her kit. This is the main reason I didn't want to say earlier that she has a high skill floor because she really doesn't. Besides her satchels, the rest of her abilities are just so strong for how easy they are to use. Her grenade is one of the most tilting signature abilities in the game to play against. Most of the time, you're going to take at least a free 50 damage from this ability if she knows how to use it and times it properly. She can kind of just chuck it when she hears enemies running and then peek off it while enemies are trying to run away from it. She can also throw it when she hears a Sova pull out his drone or a Skye dog, and if they don't get the memo to cancel, they will die from it. Especially in solo queue where teams love to just rush in on attack. It really opens up the opportunity for a Raze to just get a bunch of free damage every round from her nade. It's also just so strong as a zoning tool. How many times have you died from an enemy playing aggressive and peeking out of or just spamming through a smoke? Well, Raze can throw her nade in those smokes to force enemies off that angle. An example of this would be on Ascent, where I find it's very common for enemies to get free damage or even sometimes a kill by spamming through a smoke from market. If Raze throws her nade into market as your team pushes, you no longer have to worry about getting killed from there, because an enemy that would be holding that angle would need to back off or risk dying for free to the nade. Not only is her nade strong, but her boombot is also really strong. You can learn lineups to clear certain areas of the map, but honestly you can just make them up and you'll be fine. The boombot is so strong because as you're trying to shoot at it, if a Raze peeks you, you now have a choice to make. Either destroy the boombot but die to Raze, or try to kill the Raze and get finished off by the boombot. Neither choice feels great for you, and Raze can even combine it with her nade to really tilt you. If you try to dodge it, the boombot will hit you, but if you take the time to shoot it, you'll most likely die or at least take a bunch of damage from the nade. These abilities just work so well together, and it doesn't really take that much practice to get good with them. Playing Raze is almost like the equivalent of noob tubing in Call of Duty. But unlike the name suggests, Raze isn't a noob character. In fact, the last point I wanted to talk about for Raze is that she has an extremely high skill cap. This allows her to not only be strong in lower elos, but as you climb up the ranks, her power scales really well. And she's so strong when mastered that she even sees quite a lot of play in the pro scene. You need to be able to do things like maximize satchel jumps and be able to land exactly where you want them, or be able to wide swing using the knockback of the satchel. But if you do take the time to learn how to use Raze's abilities to their fullest potential, you can get an insane amount of value with the agent. And no matter how high you end up climbing, your agent is never really going to become irrelevant. And the crazy thing too is that Raze has seen a bunch of nerfs over the last year. With price increases, her ult going from 6 ult points to 7 and now 8, and just overall damage decreases on her abilities. But even after all those nerfs, she's still a very strong, well-rounded duelist. And it feels like no matter what, Raze always seems to have a place in the meta. And I think that even if she wasn't very strong in the meta, she would probably still be played because the community around her is just so large. She's the queen of the Valorant highlight montage scene, comparable to even Jett. And there are so many popular content creators like Flights that only help to increase her popularity. And I think that until we get an agent added into the game with the same mobility and potential to make highlight plays, Raze will probably always be popular. Hey everyone, thank you for watching my video on why everybody plays Raze. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, please let me know in the comments. Also, if you're interested, consider following me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jittersval. I stream every Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. EST. I'll leave a link in the description. Finally, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more Valorant related content.